Hi, I'm Ross Benjamin reporting for the Offshore Gaming Association. That's OSGA.com, your number one source for information on the offshore sportsbook industry. That's OSGA.com. It's Saturday, February 16th, and it's time for another edition of my college basketball underdog picks of the day. Let's get right to them. Let's start with the Summit Conference battle between the South Dakota State Jackrabbits and the North Dakota State Bison. That game will take place in North Dakota, 5 p.m. Eastern Time tip. North Dakota State is currently a 5.5 point underdog. South Dakota State's coming off a 1 point loss at Nebraska Omaha on Thursday night. In that game, they blew a 16-point second half lead, and that snapped a 9-game South Dakota State win streak. South Dakota State has been far and away the best team in the Summit Conference this year, but that certainly was a momentum killer, blowing that sizable lead on the road against a team that they were favored against. North Dakota State, on the other hand, they're 10-1 at home this year, and they've also gone 5-0 straight up in ATS in their last 5 games. So they have a lot working for them in terms of home underdog value. And during this 5-game win streak, the Bison have averaged 77 points per game. They've shot nearly 50% from the field. They've made just under 39% of their 3-point attempts, while also converting 83.3% of their free throws, So they're definitely playing very good basketball at the moment. And also, North Dakota State will be out to revenge an 18-point road loss to South Dakota State earlier this season. I'm going to take a chance here on the North Dakota State Bison plus the 5.5 at home against South Dakota State. Next game, number 1 Tennessee goes to Lexington, Kentucky to take on the Kentucky Wildcats, who are number 5 in the country. Currently, as we speak, Tennessee is a 4-point underdog on the road at Rupp Arena. That's according to 5 Dimes. And this is one of the few occasions that I'm going to challenge so-called sharp money in Las Vegas, because this game opened with Tennessee being a 2-point underdog. They've moved to 4 rather quickly, and it appears to me that the majority of bets have come in thus far on Tennessee. So a little bit of a reverse line movement here, but that doesn't assure you're going to win every time by going with the reverse line movement, and I'm going to prove that today. I mean, Kentucky's coming off a 2-point home loss to LSU earlier this week. That was a game the Wildcats led at the half by 10, and then were outscored in the second half by 12 by a very talented number 19 LSU Tigers team. This is also a Tennessee team, not only number 1 in the country at 23-1. They've won 19 games in a row. They've gone 6-0 straight up and 5-1 against the spread in true road games. And in their last 5, they've averaged 83 points per game, shot 54.5% from the field, 40.9% from beyond the 3-point arc, and 76.1% from the free throw line, in addition to having a monster 21-10 assist to turnover ratio. Needless to say, Tennessee has been playing very good basketball for quite a while now. Their only loss coming in November on a neutral floor against Kansas by 6 points. Tennessee also huge edge and experience here. This is a Tennessee club that was upset by Loyola Chicago in last year's NCAA tournament. They returned 5 starters. In Kentucky, as usual, a lot of turnover, very talented freshmen. But again, you're also looking at a number 1 overall, number 1 ranked team in the country as an underdog. So a little bit of an incentive-laden game here for Tennessee as well. I'm going to take the Volunteers here, plus 4 at Kentucky. Last game, Pac-12 Conference rivalry game between the Washington Huskies and the Washington State Cougars. And like they say in all rivalry games, you can throw the records out the window. And Washington State right now They are an 8-point underdog at home against their in-state rival. Now, this is a Washington team that had their 12-game winning streak snapped in their last outing. They lose 85-73 at Arizona State. That also ended a 10-0 ATS run for the Washington Huskies. Washington State, heading into their last two games, was really reeling. And then they pulled off two upsets on the road as double digit underdog as a double digit underdog against Arizona and Arizona State. That's the same Arizona State team, by the way, that just knocked off Washington on Thursday evening. And Washington State will also be out to revenge an 85-67 loss at Washington. I'm not so sure Washington State will pull off the outright upset, but I do feel strongly they'll stay within the 8-point number here. I'm going to take Washington State plus the 8 against Washington. Repeating again, North Dakota State plus 5.5 against South Dakota State. Tennessee plus 4 at Kentucky, and Washington State as a 8-point home underdog against the Washington Huskies. Be sure to go to osga.com daily, as you'll find my articles there. This week I released two articles, I should say published two articles, where I detail some potential Cinderella teams in the NCAA tournament, the upcoming NCAA tournament, I should say. And those are all teams from mid-major conferences that could pull off potential upsets in round one or round two of the NCAA tournament. You never know. There might be a Loyola Chicago out there this year that got to the Final Four a season ago. Also, I have an article up there this week that details how I detect and identify home underdog betting value in college basketball. You want to read these, and hopefully they could educate you going forward. Also, my college basketball free picks at OSTA this past week, past 4 days, I should say, a very good 8-4. Those come in the form of an article. I've had college basketball underdog picks articles and college basketball totals articles this week. So you want to keep an eye on those as well. And also you can visit my website, rbwins.com, where you pay a little to make a lot. My college basketball paid selections, 25 and 16, 61% over my last 41, and 56 and 39. That's 59% over my last 95. My college basketball 10-star top plays, which are my top rated selections, 23 and 9 in college basketball, 72% the last 32. Thank you for joining me. Until the next time, I'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best.